Hello guys, to talk about a couple of series that, yeah, usually fan bases are kind of united. It's kind of like united groups, not really fan bases don't really hate each other, don't really despise each other, but there are some of these fan bases that have changed over time. And we go over several examples. And yes, most fans are civil. Most fans of a property or an IP are civil. And we're not talking about any newer IPs like Overwatch or The Last of Us. Considering that Overwatch literally only has one game and The Last of Us only has 2 games. We're not going to be talking about those games. Or newer movie franchises. But oh wait, that doesn't exist because Hollywood can't think of anything new. And even then, it's very well to think of anything new. But yep, these are usually long-running franchises. Long-running series that have basically divided the newer entries in the series, movies or games, or even TV shows, have divided the fan base in 2. So number 1 is Sonic. As you all know, the Sonic fan base is not a good fan base. The Sonic fan base is divided into various factions at this point. There are of course the normal Sonic fans. Sonic fans who accept all the Sonic games for who they are and still hate the bad ones. Sonic fans who are willing to critique some of the newer games, but still like all the games equally and won't hate the games for absurd reason. There are classic Sonic fans who think that the only good Sonic games is Sonic Mania and the Sega Genesis games. Even then, there are even some of these classic Sonic fans like Mario to Plumber who hate the older Sonic, who even hate Sonic Mania because it uses newer Sonic characters. And of course, we have the modern Sonic fans, the Adventure fans. People who think that the only good Sonic games, of course, the original Sonic games on Sega Genesis, but these games include Adventure, and no Sonic games can hold a candle to Adventure, saying that Sonic peaked of Adventure, and yeah. And of course, we have the people who just hate Sonic games. Every time a new Sonic game comes out, they just hate it for no reason. Instead of criticizing the game, they just hate it because, even though they claim they're a Sonic fan, they call the game garbage and they call the game trash. And they gave ridiculous reasons why the game sucks. And are not very reasonable. And most videos died on sites like 4chan and Twitter. And are willing to argue with people who actually like the games instead of being civil. They will argue for hours and hours, saying that if you like these new Sonic games, you are wrong and you're not a real fan because you don't like the original 2 Adventure games, or you're not a classic Sonic fanboy. But most of the Sonic fan base is unsurprisingly not an evil fan base like it is portrayed. Yes, most Sonic fans are not that great. They are mostly complainers who are wishing they would go back to the old ways of Sonic. And because of the fan base, Sega doesn't even know what to do with the Sonic franchise anymore, because no matter what they make now, the Sonic fan base will get angry, no matter what they do. And no, not talking about games like Sonic Colors Ultimate, where people hate the game because of the glitches. We're talking about games like Sonic Forces, which was really probably created because they were trying to appease both modern and classic Sonic fans. And, you can't really strike fire. Lightning doesn't strike. You can't get lightning in a bottle twice. And they basically tried to make a Sonic Generations-esque game because they know everybody loved that game, except for, the toxic fanboys who would hate anything with Sonic on it. Next is Pokemon. This is a fan base that I have recently left. I admit I'm a part of the bad people in the Pokemon fan base. Pokemon has taken a strange direction recently, cutting down the amount of Pokemon you get in the game, poorly animating cutscenes and stuff. But the Pokemon fan base has always been like this. And yes, Sword and Shield didn't actually start with Sword and Shield. Yep, Pokemon fan base has always been this way. First, there are Gen 1ers, who claim that every Pokemon since the first generation of games sucks and is garbage. Basically, and of course if you disagree with them, then of course you're wrong. Because you can't disagree with me, because Gen 1 is my childhood. Gen 1 is my childhood, so you cannot be correct. Because, yeah. And then we have the modern day Pokemon fans. The most Pokemon fans are actually pretty reasonable people. And sometimes will criticize the newer Pokemon games. Yes, I think I've gotten too unreasonable in the past when it comes to Pokemon games. Complaining about people for buying Sword and Shield, and complaining about people for saying the game was good. I admit that I was a part of this problem. And has been labeled a Pokemon hater. With this why I made a video called I Left the Pokemon Fan Base, and I stopped playing Pokemon games. Again, people are allowed to like Pokemon Sword and Shield. Yes, I do not like Pokemon Sword and Shield, and I'm probably never gonna buy it. I don't like the changes they made to the Pokemon games. And the games that really pissed me off was not actually Sword and Shield. It was actually Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, changing the word Pokemon Master to Pokemon Master Trainer, and real nitpicks as this. And the same can apply to their sub-series like Pokemon Mystery Dungeon and Pokemon Ranger. Actually, they don't make those games anymore. But Pokemon Mystery Dungeon as well has started. It isn't really as bad as the main series Pokemon games, but there was a small group of elitists who think the only good Mystery Dungeon games is the Sky and the Original Rescue Team. I may have started that elitism for those older Pokemon games. But other than that, yeah, Pokemon, the fan base is good. You know, the way Paper Mario and Sonic is now is what Pokemon is heading towards. I don't think Pokemon will get out of this, which is why I stopped buying Pokemon games in general. Pokemon fan base has probably become too divided, with older fans getting angry over the Pokédex thing and getting angry over not being able to even battle Pokemon in Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, to not buying any of these games ever again. And Pokemon's been slowly slipping away from us ever since then. And yeah, Pokemon is a series that I just don't really care about anymore. I say, oh yeah, Pokemon, that's for kids. And let's move on from Pokemon. Because I do feel like, I'm going to put my personal opinions on to do with Pokemon games. I do feel like that instead of making the games actually difficult or trying to make the games more accessible, they're just trying to dumb it down for kids, including like a nuke button for the games. But I'll talk about that. I could talk about that later on in a different video of why I started buying Pokemon games. But yeah, the Pokemon fan base, has gotten ridiculous. So you have one group of the Pokemon fan base that has stopped buying Pokemon games after like Gen 4 because they don't like the Gen 5 designs. And of course you have the Gen 8, the new types that hate, the angry fans about Gen 8. Even though most of these quote-unquote angry fans have bought the game anyways. Which, if you really want the series to change, just don't buy the game. You're just encouraging it more. It just doesn't make any sense. If you're angry at a game, but you still buy the game, it just doesn't make any sense. So, yep, there we go about Pokemon. The Pokemon fan base is pretty divided, and I don't think that's gonna change any longer. Number 3, Star Wars. Star Wars, yep. This is the most notable. This is probably the second biggest fan base on this list besides Pokemon. The second most successful series on this list. If you look at the highest grossing media properties of all time, Star Wars would be number 2 on this list. Sonic will be at number 3 so far. But Star Wars has freed the fist of areas. Though of course your standard Star Wars fans that like all of the movies. That love all of the movies, love the TV shows, and basically love everything about Star Wars. And those people will probably never go away. But then we have a couple of people. First are the original trilogy worshippers. What do you mean by the original trilogy worshippers? Basically, anything that isn't in the original trilogy is garbage. So the prequels and the sequels. These are fans that basically absolutely despise and the newer Star Wars movies, and probably even despise The Mandalorian for some reason. And of course, they despise the prequels because they ruined the Star Wars war. And of course, they hate the prequels because of what they did to the original trilogy characters. But I think that's more justifiable than the hate for the prequels. But then, of course, we have the newer Star Wars fans, the sequel fans, and the Reylos. They're not really that big in numbers, but they still exist. They basically trash on the original trilogy fan bases and call them sexist and racist and all other words because they don't like the newer Star Wars movies because of those reasons. And of course, we have the most infamous Star Wars fandom, the Fandom Menace, which has spread out to Marvel and other medium franchises. I do not like the Fandom Menace. They are a very toxic fan base that has basically spread to Marvel and other media franchises because they realized that they stopped making Star Wars movies for a while, so now it's about Marvel, and they don't like the newer Marvel movies. And we'll get to Marvel in a moment, and I could make a video called how the Marvel fan base is becoming a very bad fan base because they don't like the changes in the Marvel franchise. But yeah, it's basically the Star Wars universe, essentially. The Star Wars fan base is pretty much divided into these three factions. The original trilogy worshippers, the prequel worshippers, the prequel defenders who will defend the prequels, which I do congratulate them for that because the prequels are kind of underrated, except for episode 2. Nobody likes episode 2. But there are the prequel defenders as well who will defend the prequels with all the heart because they grew up with it. And of course, we have the sequel fans who are mostly newer people, who are mostly Gen Z and are going to defend the newer Star Wars movies, and Gen Alpha because number one, they're mostly still in school, and number two, they have nothing else to do besides do homework and maybe hang out with their friends once in a while, and play newer things. Of course, they don't despise the newer direction because they didn't grow up with the original series. They probably saw all of them equally, which is why I don't like the prequel, which is why I don't despise the prequels as much. I don't really like the sequel movies, but I still do not hate the prequel movies. I think the prequel movies are all good, except for episode 2, which is kind of like the black sheep of the prequel trilogy. But the prequel trilogy is still pretty fine. Again, I kind of did grow up with the prequels and the original movies. But yeah, the Star Wars fan base has become very divisive, and it's mostly because of the Fandom Menace now. Most Star Wars fans have mostly embraced the prequels, except for those few original trilogy diehards that saw the Phantom Menace on feeders and said, "Oh, Jar Jar sucks, 0 out of 10, horrible movie. I'm just gonna watch the originals instead because I saw the original movies in feeder." Don't worry much of those people anymore because those people must be like either very old or something like that. But yeah, Star Wars is another series that the fan base has divided. Number 4, Halo. So Halo is Microsoft's most popular franchises. Halo Infinite is not out yet, so he won't use anything for Halo Infinite. We'll be supposed to be talking about old fans and newer fans. Most of these series, I actually am kind of more with the old fans. But the Halo fan base has become horrible. It has become terrible. So most of the Halo fans, they're the Bungie elitists, and of course there are the new Halo fans who like Halo 4 and like Halo 5. And yes, there's nothing wrong with liking Halo 4 and Halo 5. I do respect your opinions if you like those two games. I didn't like Halo 4 and 5, but you can like Halo 4 and 5 if you want. But basically, the Halo fan base is basically all into this. If you like the newer Halo games, you're not a real Halo fan. You're an outcast to the Halo fan because they don't like all the changes that 343 has changed to the war and all the new changes they changed to the gameplay. Which will actually slowly starting to get added by Bungie themselves. So it makes kind of the Bungie elitists a bunch of hypocrites. Because even then, Halo 4 played into the secret ending of Halo 3, which the way to get the secret ending of Halo 3 is to beat the game on Legendary. Which I did beat this game on Legendary last year so I can see what the secret ending was. And guess what? The secret ending of Halo 3 was supposed to lead into the War of the Forerunners. So basically, I wouldn't be surprised if 343 Industries took on what Bungie was supposed to add anyways to Halo 4. But the fan base has gotten very, very, very divided. So people who have grown up with the original Xbox and 360 Halo games despise the newer Halo fans, because the newer Halo fans are used to Halo 5 and Halo 4. And the Halo fan base is much younger compared to the Star Wars fandom, and it's more in line with like the Pokemon fandom. Most of these people grew up in the 2000s and around the older age of Gen Z. But the younger Halo fans or the newer Halo fans despise these newer Halo games. They despise the Halo fans who are elitists of the older Halo games. They don't despise the newer Halo games, they love them. They think they're fun games because that's what they're growing up with. I think that's part of the thing here. People like what they grow up with. I have kind of found that out. While there's so many people who have greatness, who love who think the N64 is the greatest console, and then there are people who are going to argue, oh, but the Switch is, because I'm growing up with the older gun. But now there are people who are trying to argue with people who like the N64 that the best Nintendo console is the Wii because they grew up with the Wii. I think this is something that we have to go over. Nostalgia really plays a big thing in these fan bases. A lot of people want these games to go back, and movies to go back to the way they were. But the companies that own these games and movies want to take a new direction, especially with Star Wars. But the older fans don't like it because they don't like the new fans. This is prevalent in Pokemon, and this is mostly prevalent in Star Wars. And this is definitely prevalent in the Halo fanbase and the Sonic fanbase. Newer and older fans will crash on the internet because they don't like the way they're changing the series. Older Halo fans feel like they're being rejected for newer Halo fans and these newer changes. Many older Halo fans are very skeptical of Halo Infinite as well. Well, basically saying, oh, if it's not like the original Halo games, it's not going to be that good. Number 5, Paper Mario. Another series that is basically turned into like the Halo franchise is the Paper Mario series. So, the last 3 entries on the Paper Mario series, and even Super Paper Mario, are very decisive in the Paper Mario fanbase. So, there are 2 groups of fans. Fans who desperately want every game to be like the flowers in your door, and the newer fans who just like it. And of course, there's the fans who are simple and like every game, or just have opinions on some of the newer games that they don't like, but they're able to agree with the people who like the newer games. Basically, like with Star Wars, the Paper Mario fanbase, the newer people who grew up with the 3DS and Wii U are going to like these newer games because they haven't had the opportunity to play Paper Mario for the N64. I never played the N64 Paper Mario, and haven't ever had the chance to play may have had a chance to play Super Paper Mario, but have never played The Flowers in Your Door or Paper Mario, the original. And unlike movies, these games are very hard to get. So younger fans, it's going to be very hard for them to get access to them, unless of course they have a GameCube lying around, or an N64 lying around from either the parents or grandparents. But that's not really likely, so the first console and the first game experience is likely going to be the Origami King, or it's likely going to be the Wii U Color Splash. It's likely going to be the other game in the franchise, Sticker Style. And a lot of new Paper Mario games don't understand why older Paper Mario fans are angry, kind of like Halo fans. Halo fan base and the Paper Mario fan base are very much alike. They don't like the changes to the new fan base, to the games. They don't like the new things being added. They don't like the formula being changed for innovation. It's the same thing with the Halo community. The Halo community is now so divided because older fans want the games to be back like Halo 1 for free, but 343 Industries has no interest in doing that. Same thing with Intelligent Systems, which is the development team of the Paper Mario franchise. Nintendo has no intentions on bringing back the games to the Thousand Year Door, and of course, has no intentions, of course, bringing back the games to the Thousand Year Door and the original Paper Mario. And now we have the Thousand Year Door elitists who hate every game besides, of course, the original Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door, which means they even hate Super Paper Mario, which is completely unreasonable. They probably haven't even played Super Paper Mario, and there's the reason why that game's underrated, because a lot of the Paper Mario fan base hates Super Paper Mario, just because it's not Thousand Year Door, so that means it's bad. And a lot of the newer Paper Mario games have especially garnered a lot of criticism from older Paper Mario fans. And people who defend the newer Paper Mario games get tons of threats and get attacked by the older Paper Mario fans because they'll say the same arguments. You're not the one stop buying the newer ones. They're the reason why, or blah blah blah. And it's the same thing with the Halo fan base and now with the Pokemon fan base. It does seem that the newer and older fans just cannot agree on anything. And now we'll be going to the most recent example, Marvel Cinematic Universe. So the Marvel Cinematic Universe is the highest grossing movie franchise of all time, beating out Star Wars. But because of how big and how successful Marvel is, there is a varied amount of fans in Marvel. And we're starting to see this already. Hate for the newer Marvel movies, such as Black Widow, Shang-Chi, and especially the Eternals, this is gonna probably be something that Marvel fans have been to deal with this for a while. Older Marvel fans who grew up with the original Avengers, who grew up with, Tony Stark, Captain America, and Hulk, do not like the newer superheroes. Do not like it. And this has definitely been apparent with the reception of Captain Marvel. I didn't like the movie Captain Marvel, but this really started a new change. A lot of the older fans hate Captain Marvel because they said they're going to replace Tony Stark, Iron Man, played by Robert Downey Jr., and they're going to be replacing Chris Evans, Captain America, with Captain Marvel and SpiderMan, which a lot of older fans despise this change. A lot of older Marvel fans despise this change. But like a Pokemon Sword and Shield, Captain Marvel still made $1 billion. So obviously they say, you know what? This vocal minority of fans can be tossed down the river. And yes, I don't like some of the changes they're adding to the Marvel movies. But most of the complaints come from the same people, the fandom menace, which we mentioned earlier with the Star Wars movies. This is a small vocal minority, usually boomers or Gen X, and sometimes millennials, that do not like Marvel adding wokeness into the movies because it will ruin the brand. And yes, they have been right many times in the past. Wokeness does ruin series, like of Ghostbusters, and Ghostbusters 2016 specifically. But basically now they're using that to attack the newer Marvel movies, especially Shang-Chi and Black Widow, which is reason why the movies underperformed at the box office, because the Marvel fan base is getting toxic. A lot of Marvel fan base is not like this. And now we have the people who hate on Marvel movies. These are not really Marvel fans, but people who hate on people for liking Marvel movies. People can watch what they want to watch. No one's telling people not to watch Marvel movies and DC movies. No one's not telling them to not like Marvel movies because they're not real cinema. Well, which is absolutely absurd and really started from Martin Scorsese's remarks. And mostly people who complain when Marvel fans are asking, where's Endgame on Best Picture nominations? Where is Guardians of the Galaxy? And it'll be the same thing with Shang-Chi. Where is Shang-Chi? Why is it these random movies? Because most Marvel fans are mostly casual moviegoers. And I think the more elitists don't seem to get that. And with the newer generation, most of the older Marvel fans are going to hate Phase 4 and despise Phase 4 of Marvel. Even review bombing movies like Black Widow because they don't like the change in direction Marvel is taking with the Marvel movies, focusing away from the original group of Avengers, even though it makes sense because most of them are dead or old. So, besides Thor, most of them are dead or had their contracts being, you know, or running out of or the contracts were running out, and basically they had to get rid of these characters. The future of Marvel is uncertain, but most likely become like the Star Wars fan base. The Marvel fan base will likely turn the Star Wars fan base, given 20 years time. And it's mostly similar to the SpiderMan fan base, which is a part of the Marvel fan base, and now we're going to talk about them. The Spider-Man fan base is also very decisive, and it is mostly due to the MCU Spider-Man fan base and the original Tobey Maguire fan base. And again, this is because Spider-Man is part of the Marvel series. Basically, yeah, a lot of people have been arguing online, especially Tobey Maguire fans have been trying to argue with Marvel Spider-Man fans that your opinion's wrong if you say Far From Home and Homecoming are better than the original 3 Spider-Man movies, these made by Rami Malek, I think, is the guy who made, Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. And if you say, and again, the Spider-Man fan base doesn't really hate the Spider-Verse movie. Most of them say it's probably even better than Spider-Man 2. But we're talking about the live-action Spider-Man fans. I don't really know there's any Andrew Garfield Spider-Man fans. They kind of just don't exist. But it's really a clash between MCU fans and older Spider-Man fans. Yes, you can enjoy both the older Spider-Man movies and the newer Spider-Man movies. I enjoy watching both Spider-Man 2 and watching both Spider-Man Far From Home. I like both movies equally. I do not think one movie should be considered better than the other. But the toxic fan base, part of the Spider-Man fan base, is absolutely absurd. And yes, there are some fan bases I did not talk about. For example, online game fuses. It is not just Overwatch at all as well. It also extends into Call of Duty and stuff. But there are a lot of other fan bases that are like this as well. We could have mentioned. People that don't like newer things. Or nostalgia is a powerful tool. People just don't like the newer things because they change things about the series and they go back to what they grew up with or they feel nostalgia for. Which is mostly the older things that they grew up with. Like, for example, Batman doesn't have this decisive fan base. Yes, there are people going to tell you who's the best Joker and who's the worst Joker, but most people who like The Dark Knight like the Joker movie. There isn't some big divide between Joker fans of who is the better Joker. These are the 6 instances of fan bases that are becoming like this. Marvel and Pokemon are becoming the newest cases of this. Marvel especially signed this year with older Marvel fans despising Phase 4, which is probably why Marvel movies now are not really making that much money. And, yeah, Ghostbusters might be the next franchise to be on this list. And there's some other honorable mentions you could talk about, like Jurassic Park series as well. People who grew up with the old, but there aren't really many arguments from Jurassic World fans arguing with original Jurassic Park fans, because most people who like Jurassic World, 99.99% of the time, like Jurassic Park. And most fan bases are not really decisive. And most fan bases are usually around like one game or movie. But we're just really talking about fan bases that usually hit the newer movies and games. We can, of course, go for other franchises like Star Fox, who have the same issue, but most fan bases, like, for example, also like the Kirby and Pikmin franchise and Animal Crossing fans. But all 3 Nintendo series, most of the fans love all the games in this series. They don't really hate any games in the franchise, unless it's, of course, really bad. Same thing with Crash fans. I don't know if Crash fans hate Crash 4, but, yeah. Same thing with Doom fans. Doom fans really love the old Dooms and the newer Dooms. Same thing with Wolfenstein fans. Same thing with Fallout fans. Fallout fans only don't like the newer game because of how it was rushed out. But once they added all the stuff that made the game better, Fallout fans actually did start to do like Fallout 76 more and more. So we'll wait to see what fan bases they can add more. There will probably, over the years, there'll probably more and more fan bases will become divided because of newer series in the franchise. And most of this divide is mostly because of companies changing things. For example, in Paper Mario and Pokemon, changing the entire formula, and Marvel acting complete, changing the entire cast of characters, and these new characters are not being very well received. Same thing with Star Wars, because they're trying to bring Star Wars to a new generation, of course. And then we have the complete petty ones like Sonic, where it's the Sonic fan base we all know for how bad the Sonic fan base is. And yeah, that's basically it about this video. Goodbye.